This meeting to order. Roll call, Madam Clerk.
Mrs. Rose? Here. Ms. Sultana? Dr. Ruggles? Mayor Panto?
Here.
Mr. Brown?
Here. You mean
Mr. Pentamon?
here?
Mr. Ettinger?
Here. 6 o'clock.
Yes.
Yeah, we're recording it.
Okay, finance.
We have it on automatic, so it's just one camera. That one right back there. Yeah. Okay. Committee discussions. Let's go into the Finance Committee first, Madam Vice Mayor Brown.
I'll take it, madam. Yes, this evening we have Mr. Markson here with us, and he will be doing a presentation or an update with the audit report. And at this point, I will let Mark take over.
Okay,
Oh, are we there? Mine.
we are. Okay, thank you, Mr. Brown and Council. I had the pleasure of delivering the 2022 financial audit for your viewing pleasure. The audit is obviously a bit later than what we had hoped to have. When we switched over to our new auditor, they got us in later than we had expected, and so we're basically playing catch up. We're slowly whittling away. We hope that the upcoming audit will be in much sooner than these last two. So with that, I did present a few highlights of the 22 audit. You'll see in the results that this is the third year now of general fund surplus of about $525,000, which brought our overall fund balance up to just over $6.5 million. Previous to the slight dip that we had in 2019, we had 13 prior years of general fund surpluses, so from back from 2006 to 2018. So I think we're on, we're maintaining our solid footing as we continue into the future. Please note that that $6.5 million budget surplus, the budget fund balance that we have represents about 18% of our revenues. Our target is 10% and our max is 15%. So you'll see the next bullet that I discuss what the intentions are to use a portion of that fund balance. And so what the administration is doing is assigning $1.5 million of the fund balance to the health benefit fund, and then $1 million to the insurance casualty fund. Both of those did have high claims or have had high claims over the last several years. So we're making sure that those funds stay solid as we continue through 2023, 24 in the future. Okay, doing so brings the fund balance to a little over $4 million, or 11% of the general fund revenues. Again, our target is 10%. Okay, going to the next bullet, overall, year over year, revenues were up $25.4 million, which seems like a rather large amount, but please keep in mind that a large chunk of that is due to ARPA. Expenses were up 6.1%, and then we have a further breakdown of the overall revenues and expenses, broken down into two types. Government type activities are up 34.7. Obviously, that's where ARPA resides. Expenses were up 5.9, and business type activities were 9.9% up in revenues, and expenses equally up. Okay. Also want to note that our city's long-term debt obligations, so the bonds that we've issued for things like the parking garage, City Hall, et cetera, total currently $81.9 million, which was a decrease of about 4.7, and that's basically what our annual debt payment is. For those of you that were here during 2020 when we did what's called the scoop and toss, when we refinanced our debt, we're able to basically give ourselves some breathing room. If you recall, the debt was well over, it was probably almost $1 million higher than this $4.7 million. So we managed to take advantage of historically low rates, get our debt payments down, and also finance a new garage.
How much of the $81.9 million is pension bonds? Those pension bonds were taken out in 2002.
I would have to take a look, Mayor. It's not a huge portion, but I can get you an answer. Actually, probably if the meeting continues, or as it continues, I can take a look and get that back to you. In 3037, we'll have about a 30% drop in debt service, so that's when things start to free up, a little cash starts to free up there. So just please keep that in mind.
It's 2037, not 3037.
Did I say 3037?
You do, yeah.
Oh, I
yeah,
did
yeah,
write
right.
3037.
I
That
don't
would
think
be a
anybody's gonna be
very,
around then.
very long time.
Some of you will be around
Right, you'll be
2037, but
I don't know, I exercise a lot. I might
But you might.
Living
You might.
That's longevity.
Thank you. I apologize for
That's
that.
definitely long term.
2037. That is long. And that's surprising. Yeah, that $4.7 million over that term seems like a lot more than 81 million. Anyway, I also did want to point out our pension obligations, which are a very large weight around our neck. Right now, the O&E, which is the precursor to the PMRS plan for many of us, for the admin and basically the AFSCME organization. So before, again, we went to PMRS. They're funded at about 61% right now. Firefighters are funded at just under 70%, and police are at 58%. So the reason I bring that up is our obligation as the city is to try to make those plans whole, and how we do that is by chipping in, right? There's money, the MMOs, our minimum municipal obligation that we pay every year. Just to give you a quick rundown, in 2020, that number was 5.4 million. 2022, so that they go up every 2 years, or they're adjusted.
2008, what number was it?
It was $1 million.
$1 million.
$1 million, yes. It was $1 million in 2008. 2020, we're at 5.4. 22
That's about right.
jumped up to 6.5, and then this year, or last year and this year, we're at about $8.7 million. So it's again, if you look at our overall budget, $8.7 million is a very large amount. So again, I know you just got the audits. Please feel free to review. They are available online too. If you'd like an electronic copy, you want to share that or point anybody to it, please let them go to our website. The MMO, so the calculation is done for every 2 years, correct?
When was the last one?
24, it'll be updated this year. So, well, it's 23, 24, and so we'll go to 25, 26.
25 will
So,
get one.
yeah.
Get an increase.
More than likely, yes.
But 8.7 was the last one, we expect it to go up.
More than likely, yes. Yep.
So, if you get a chance, and I know you just have all the time in the world, can you just give us a history of the percent funded of each of the 3 pensions over, let's say, the last 10 years or so?
Sure.
Yeah.
I would assume for
I'd like-
tomorrow,
I'd
or,
just
or I
like
can
to
send that
see-
out to
I'd just like to see
what
where
that trending
yeah.
looks like.
We had a
Sure.
good aggregated pension board this last week with Mike and Mike from Morgan Stanley. They gave us a really good update on where we were, and the target date is 2036 when we finally retire the pension bonds. But right now, although the pension funds look really dismal, remember, we're not paying out any more cash into the pensioners, the people that are on pension. We haven't touched this money, which is really good in the last 15 years.
Yeah, so the money that's, I think, Mayor, to your point, the money that's invested in the pension stays in there.
Stays there.
Anything that's extra above and beyond what we contribute, what employees contribute into the pension plan, that'll go in, but then we're paying retirees out of that cash that kind of sits there before it goes into the investment side.
Any questions for Mr. Lisinecki?
Dr.
Anything else,
Vogel?
If that's the case, I don't understand why the MMO goes up.
Yeah.
Because the MMO is based on the actuarial. And the actuarial says that we have a lot of young people retire and are on pension. For example, in police and fire, one of the reasons why it's so low is, number one, they have very lucrative pensions, but they're allowed to retire after 20 or 30 years.
Then it goes to the
So
department.
a 20-year person who comes on at 25, retires at 45 at full pension, they're on pension for a long time.
Yeah, but their 20 is, what, 50% or?
No, it's full.
It's not the full.
Well, it's not the full amount, but
No.
but right now it's better than 50%.
Yeah.
There's no police officer or firefighter retires at 50%.
then they go on to another municipality, get other jobs.
Remember, they were all put into PMRS, and then they were allowed to get out of PMRS and go back into their own pension funds. And that, PMRS is funded at about 98%. So when you look at the average person who's been hired in AFSCME and management in the last 20 years, we're doing okay. Their pensions aren't as good as lucrative, but it's fully funded. And PMRS just went over $1 billion.
I was gonna say, it's a big pot.
When I was still on it, when we hit the $1 billion mark, so PMRS manages 1,000 plans, but they're all one step
Aggregated.
removed from the local municipality, so that the police and fire came back and complained they wanted more money, and they got it in arbitration mostly, when in their bargaining unit, and most of it was because of arbitration. The city just didn't give away better benefits.
Thank you for the update.
Thank you.
Thank
That's all we
all.
have.
Okay, we'll move on to economic development, Mr. Pinnabone.
You want me to go first, or you want Chris to see second?
Well,
I'm last on the list.
What am I looking at?
you're looking on economic development.
No, I'm sorry, I got the agenda.
Oh, planning codes. I'm
Oh.
sorry. Bill 15. I'm sorry. I skipped
Oh yeah,
one.
no worries. So we're bringing up the handicap parking program update. There are currently delays in getting handicap spaces approved for our residents who really need them. And Jeremy had pointed out that these delays were due to the structure of our current system. Currently, the health officer, Joe Gill, reviews the applications, meets with the applicants, and then generates a report for the board. The Board of Health at its next meeting then interviews the applicants and any residents who may appear and votes to approve or deny the request for a handicap spot. So currently the process can take 1 or 2 months, but recently the wait times increased much longer, which is why we're here today. This is due to the board being a bit understaffed. Board members have been resigning regularly. So the low numbers on the board basically are preventing us from gaining a quorum during these meetings and putting some of these handicap spots into place. So Jeremy has revised the ordinance governing the program structure to make it more like a zoning appeal. And I know everyone was sent out the update. I'm not sure if it's here. And I also have copies if anyone wants I have the marked updates. I can take one and pass it. And Jeremy's also here tonight to answer any questions anyone might have.
No questions.
I think it's efficient, more efficient. I do have at the next meeting. I didn't get a confirmation for this meeting to put but we have somebody from the board that would like to get on the Board of Health, and the Board of Health, like the parking authority, has really changed the responsibility. The Board of Health has become nothing but a handicap parking board, and the parking authority has become nothing but a parking ticket appeal board.
And as Councilwoman Rose stated, I think the intent of this is to allow the health officer at this point, Mr. Gill, to approve the clear and obvious cases as quickly as possible to get these people the accommodation that they need. Because some of the cases are just a slam dunk. I mean, the people have terrible disabilities or illnesses that really prevent them from being able to find a parking space as would otherwise happen. And the idea is that under this format, the health officer can approve those people immediately, and then the ones that are more of a close call, he can refer to the Board of Health.
Right.
I know there have been some people who I think are waiting over 3 months at times just due to either weather and or lack of quorum to finally get the approval. And then once it's approved, it then has to go through the process to where the Public Works comes in and marks the spot and then puts the actual sign in place. So if anyone has any thoughts on nice kind of scheme.
Haven't read the
Scheme
whole
sounds
thing
bad.
yet, but we're still retaining, I'm sorry, we're still retaining the, 2 parking spots per block?
Correct.
Right? Okay,
Yeah, anything in excess of 2 will still require council approval.
okay.
But what would happen then, although I didn't state it explicitly in here, is what would happen then is that it would just be put on the agenda by the health officer at that point for approval by council.
The only thing I worry about here is what you just covered, the fact that we're actually taking more away from the Board of Health, where they just become in the, you know.
Well, if there's
and
nothing that
so,
they don't have to meet, they can cancel their meeting. Right now, they're not having a meeting because they lack a quorum.
Right.
They can't get 3 people to go to a meeting because there's only 3 people on the board. So if one person misses, they don't have a quorum.
But I mean, what I'm
right.
saying is we're decreasing their responsibility, which decreases the desire for people to be on the board. You know, what are we doing here? You know,
Well,
and
it's
so,
getting harder and harder to get people to serve on the ABCs. And I think what you're going to do is you're going to see a consolidation of those ABCs.
And that's across the Lehigh Valley too.
Yeah, we have a hard time getting quorum at some of our zoning boards, and then they have to wait and go continuance, get delayed, and that puts them behind. And you have businesses who are wanting to open, and they can't open for another month because there's no quorum at the meeting. At some zoning board meetings, there's only 2 people, and they have to agree to decide whatever that is to decide. I have posted right now, I have an opening on sewer authority, and usually I try to get somebody that has some engineering background to get on a sewer authority, because it makes no sense to have just a layperson or a finance person. I mean, either a financial background or engineering background. There's also an opening on the planning commission, and there's an opening on the civil service board. So, and then the Board of Health has 2 openings.
well, does it make sense that we take the parking authority and the health department and kind of combine them together and say,
Probably
okay,
makes
now
a lot of
you're-
sense,
you know,
but you have to come up with a name. Appeals board.
yeah.
I think in the meantime, this is a good update. We
yeah.
could always change it back to whatever board. I would just hate that a disabled veteran or someone with some type of disability would be unable to get a spot near their house at this point.
Well, I think it's better if you don't charge them to go to a meeting. I mean, the Board of Health is expensive, the zoning board's expensive, and we've given the zoning administrator more latitude, and I think to give the health officer more latitude would be save people some money.
Yeah, and it does, as Councilwoman Rose said in her introduction, it does more model a zoning or a permit application, whereas if it clearly falls within the intent of the statute, it can be approved at the
Right.
administrative level
Right.
instead of making the person come here in an evening and do all those other things.
Pay for it.
And there also is a mechanism where the board, if they receive complaints or something to that effect, they can require a review of one that's been approved by the health officer, so they could have the person come in then and testify later. So there is kind of a check on that as well. And again, the intent is just to allow the obvious cases to get as quick a permit as possible.
I think one of the things is we have handicap parking by permit only now. We didn't have it that way when I first got in office. It was you had a handicap spot out in front of your house, but you weren't any handicapped person could use it.
Right.
Now it's only the permit holder, and that does create some issues in the neighborhoods when we start giving 3 per neighborhood. But I don't disagree that the permit holder that gets it should be able to use it.
But
One out here, she puts traffic cones out when she leaves, so nobody can park there at all. No, so let anybody get in there. But I have no problem with the amendment.
do we want to have Joe here tomorrow in case there's any questions for his process, or I don't know if he needs to be here. I thought about it as I was walking up here today, which is kind of last minute for today.
I don't need him here.
Okay.
Somebody else wants him.
For what it's worth, he didn't have any hand in crafting this. I talked about kind of the idea, and we hit it back and forth a little bit. But I think if there's any questions that come up between now and tomorrow, I think I'm probably the best person to answer them. Unless it's about the procedure, he knows the procedure. But as far as the ordinance amendment goes, that'd probably be me.
Was he receptive to it when you told him
Yes. When I first talked about the idea, he was very much in favor of, again, because as we've discussed, there are some people who just clearly need it, and now they're in limbo for two months or sometimes more. And he thought that if he could approve those, then it would allow the board to spend its time reviewing the cases that really are more of a close call. And then he knows, then it also kind of sends the signal to the board of this one, each one of these require maybe closer examination. They can spend their time accordingly.
Any other questions for Jeremy or Ms. Rose? Okay, we'll move on to Mr. Pinnabone, Economic Development.
Thank you, Mayor. Tonight, all I have is a PLA agreement. I think I mentioned it back when we talked about being in the parking street garage. I apologize I didn't get the resolution or the agreement to everybody sooner. Just finished it up today. First time our solicitors are looking at it as well. So obviously I'm not looking for a vote today's committee. We're not looking to put it on the agenda tomorrow. We are looking to have discussion, hear from the solicitors, administration, and get it on at the next voting meeting if it's supported and ready to go. So I handed everybody out the agreement. Just some highlights, some benefits of the agreement. The agreement is intended to foster the achievement of a timely and on-budget completion of the project by, among other things, but what we pointed out was avoiding cost delays, standardizing terms and conditions, permitting wide flexibility in working schedules and shift hours and times, achieving negotiated adjustments, providing comprehensive and standardized mechanisms, ensuring a reliable source of skilled, apprenticeship-trained, and experienced labor, and to improve employment opportunities for minorities, women, and the economically disadvantaged in the construction industry. This agreement would only take effect on projects that the city is actually doing, like a parking garage, and it would only trigger $500,000 or more. The county currently has one at $200,000. They're having an issue not getting enough bids. It's too low. So I put this one at $500,000. The park garage, the Marquee, I just learned that IBW 102 got the contract for the lighting in the parking garage, which has nothing to do with us. They got it. They bid on it. They got it. But 4 of their guys live in the city of Easton. One I just introduced 6 months ago. He's on the apprenticeship program. So they're giving local work to our people that pay our taxes, spend their money here and boost our economy. So
They got another one going in there too. Going to Jersey.
That's good. That's really good. So, that's why I brought it. There is one currently in place. I'm sure Mr. Ruggles, Brown, and Edinger, know about it. It was here. I think Mike Fleck brought it.
Wasn't here before Roger was on.
Oh, okay.
Matter of fact,
No, I
KB was the
remember it
only one.
over at
Well, I
St.
remember
John's.
too.
It was before I was on
KB
council.
was the only
before
one
you
on.
took- Oh, okay. Roger, I apologize. I think you're with these two lifers all the time.
No, I remember it. I mean,
Yeah.
they had a lot of the union people came in to St. John's
Yes.
over there.
Yes, we had a big
during
meeting.
that one discussion. Yeah.
So, on top of that, one thing we're going to bring to propose, for example, the agreement would go through the city with the general contractor and the subs. A general contractor would have to come in and show documents that they're paying the subs before they take their draws from the city, so we don't run into an issue that we ran in at the parking garage where we're paying and they're not paying. What was the other one? I don't remember what else I was going to say. Mr. Edinger, do you have anything to add?
I don't. I understand the benefits of the PLA. That it's more than just pro-union. We're supporting these contractors who spend a great deal of money training guys to work safe, to work efficiently, and all the training facilities that you see out there for the carpenters, whatever, they're paid for by the contractors. That's not the guys paying for that, but, you know, you're putting local people to work. I mean, it turns my stomach when I see all those pickup trucks out at the extended stay hotel. They come here because they can make twice as much as they can back in Alabama, but when they leave, that money goes back with them. None of it stays here, so.
One thing to point out as well is, this doesn't exclude any contractor from bidding on a job. They can bid on it. They would have to obviously pay prevailing wage. But, you know, with the unions, as Mr. Edringer said, the training program is exceptional. I mentioned a couple months ago, I went up to the operator's new training facility out towards Harrisburg. It's like 1.5 million square foot, brand new, you know, all training. If you go through, when you have a chance, go through this agreement. They talk about the drug testing, the training, you know, the apprenticeship programs, just everything to, you know, get the job done and get it done by local people instead of hiring from outside. But with that said, it doesn't exclude anyone. Non-union, anybody could bid on it.
When the casino was built, the supplier of the concrete was a non-union concern, but they complained the whole 2 years that they were working there. But I'll bet you they never made more money on any other job.
Yeah, how about
You
it?
know,
When they hired all union to do the extension of Wind Creek, and we learned about it the last,
Yeah.
and they came in under budget, under schedule, and they loved it. So,
Well,
you know,
I know on here, on this building, we first bid it out, and Sean Boyle was not bidding it, and it was really expensive. And we got Sean, I said, Sean, I called Sean up, I said, we need you to use local union labor, because he uses union labor.
Yep.
And he came in $700,000 less than the lowest bidder. I mean, you could sharpen your pencil. He may not have made as much, but at least the guys got paid and the girls got paid a reasonable, family sustainable rate.
absolutely. And the project came out great.
And the key thing is they got paid.
I got paid.
Absolutely got paid. So if there's any questions, I'll do my best to answer them. Otherwise, Jeremy, I'm sure you and I will talk this week or next, you know, to get any input, whenever you have a chance, or if anybody else comes up with anything, you want to email me or whatever, email the whole group. That way when I get you an answer, everybody sees the question and the answer.
Councilman, is the intent to talk about this at the next committee meeting?
If we need to.
Yeah.
If there's
Well,
people that,
questions.
pardon me?
If there's questions.
Right, if there's
Right.
questions, if everybody's okay with it,
We can just put it on Wednesday.
We'll
Then
definitely want to have, I mean, Joel has a lot more experience in the union
Right.
side of things than I do, so I'll
Yeah,
definitely
he
talk it over
represented him
with him.
against us back in the 80s.
Well, that's how you learn, Mary. You have to be able to argue both sides.
Both
As a lawyer,
sides.
that's what they teach us.
well versed. Yeah,
So,
absolutely.
I think, you know, if we have any reason to talk about it, then, or we'll get in touch with you beforehand, but
Yeah.
I think this is a great,
I mean, if
really
there's
great idea.
certain things that we can work out beforehand and everybody's comfortable with,
Right.
I'd like to see it on the next agenda at the end of the month. If not, and we still have to work through things, we'll put it back on committee to work through
Okay,
it.
great.
Thank you.
Okay, Ms. Rose, you have asked for a discussion on bill number 16.
Yes, I got it yesterday afternoon after I got home from work, and I am in support of the idea. My only thing I'd like to see it tabled until we can speak with Lewis. I know he couldn't be here tonight or tomorrow. And I'd just like to see what his process, I'd like to see it defined as to how, like, what his plan is. If he would be, when deciding to issue a temporary halt. And I also would like some information on
I think
what the
that's what
waiting
city
list
council has
would
to
be.
determine, what percentage.
Yeah,
He
so,
didn't, you know, we use 60 and 80%. So if you think it's 60%, we could set it at 60. He has the right to cap it once at 60%.
yeah, I'd just like to see it a little bit more defined. I think this is a little too vague for me personally.
Right, he did give me a report, and I'll read it tomorrow night, but he gave everybody, I think everybody got his number of units, number of buildings that have units over 6, or under 6 rather.
Yeah.
I mean, he has 65 permits, residential permits that are out there that really don't need to be out there. I mean, I forget how many he had at Governor Wolf building. There's like 20, and they have a parking lot.
Yeah.
And, you know, they don't have to park on it. Now, I will admit that Second Street Second Street is more convenient, but they have a parking lot. And so when they move in there, they know that that's where they park.
They're paying for it.
Yeah, they sure are. Well, actually, that's one of the most reasonable places to live still, unless you get your leases up.
Yeah, I would just also like to see the waiting list process defined a little bit more. I'd had previous questions about like permitting, and I know that the inventory was done, and so that's eliminating future apartment buildings that have dedicated parking, those tenants from being able to get the permits, whereas there were some issues in the past with that I'm aware of. So like I said, I would just like a little bit more information about the process personally.
Not a problem with me. You'll table that?
Tomorrow,
Move
they
to table it?
Is it on tomorrow?
It's not on yet.
I would like to. Apologies, I'm going to miss tomorrow's meeting. Frank has agreed to give my update tomorrow.
Okay, that's right.
Yeah, I'll be at the Lehigh Valley Business Awards tomorrow.
Right, I mean, congratulations.
Yeah,
you said
thank
that
you.
a little quickly. Slow it down a little bit. You're getting an award tomorrow.
Yeah.
From Lehigh Valley Business.
She's very.
Don't worry,
I'm not too into all of that, but I am very happy and thankful to those who
Well
nominated me.
deserved.
Yeah.
Thank
Yes, it
you.
is.
I will mention it publicly tomorrow.
But I just want to remind everybody that we're up at the College Hill Presbyterian Church tomorrow night.
Jeremy,
Mayor, question for you. It's
Jeremy
regard.
can walk again, he walks now.
It's regarding tomorrow, but if we can do it today, the Omni's presentation, I'd like to table it. I was going to do it first thing tomorrow. However, there's a great deal of business owners and attorneys and everybody else that plan to show up.
Yeah.
So if we can table it now, they don't have to show up and do it first thing.
well, I guess we have.
Fine with me, I mean, we approved it
question.
because it was fair for everybody. We talked about our staff meeting for about a half an hour this morning.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't know what the problem is, I really don't. I don't see a problem, but I think the business owner and the staff have a difference of opinion as to what they agreed to, what they didn't agree to.
Right.
But the fact of the matter is, I think Omni just came up with something that's fair. If everybody else gets 274 square feet, they mapped out 274 square feet, and that's what they get. But that plaza being as paved as it is today with pavers, I don't have a problem. I mean, location is everything, and if you have a location there, I don't care where you put it, as long as people can get around. They were
Clear
pinched
path.
at the
Gotta be clear.
Pearly Bakers, they were pinched. They took their fence down voluntarily. We didn't have to take any action against them. But as long as they can get around, a wheelchair can get around, a walker can get around, I don't care. I don't have a problem with it. I think it's ridiculous to worry about. Now, is it fair to, for example, right now Mesa has their concrete blocks in front of Third and Ferry. I don't think that's fair. But if Mike Paquetto agreed to it, I don't care.
I think my issue, Mayor,
His is on the side, or it's on Ferry Street.
as you know, I met down there with the business owner Saturday. We were taking measurements. You and I met and spoke about it. I think they were left out of the conversation, and they just want to.
They were not left out of the conversation.
Well, I mean, about the Omnis thing, they haven't had a meeting about it.
Oh,
or
they
heard
had
about it.
about Omnis as well.
So, like for
What
example,
came out of Omnis was only contracted to come up with a plan because we needed an outside consultant to give us a plan that everybody would agree with and say, okay, you know, I'm sure they'll agree that we should pave Len's Court, but it's not going to help. It's not going to help Josie's. It's going to help Rivals and Mothers and that, but it's not, and it's going to help the city getting rid of Tripling Hat.
I think also, I hear what Councilman Penniman saying is to table it, but I have to disagree. I think it's important that we do hear the public and what they're saying. They have a right to do that. And the sooner we hear them, the better information coming back, that we can make a great decision and get them understand
I agree.
where we're going with this. I filled several calls. I know several of us have. I know we've been called by attorneys and people and stopped on the street and stopped at work, and so I just want to hear what the public has to say.
I agree, but I think that's
Why don't we make it a public hearing in 2 weeks?
right.
That we'll have that we announce that we're going to have a public hearing on Len's
I'm okay
Court
with that.
design.
Well, I'm okay with that, but there's a second part to that. When we met 2 weeks ago, we got presented with options, and we were supposed to discuss the options and then come back. Well, tomorrow we have a vote. I never discussed the options, so I don't know if anybody else did. We didn't discuss it. There was many different varieties we were picking from, and
You and I discussed that already. It's like, we gave feedback.
Yeah.
and we don't know what happened. you know,
Right.
Yeah.
So I
it's
just feel like we rushed it a little.
oh yeah, I'll speak to the hand, you know.
I want your opinion, but not really.
I think it would be great to bring those businesses. Did they have those businesses? I know it was public at our last council meeting, but has anyone from the city reached out with those plans in case they didn't get
With
a
the plans,
chance to
no,
see
I
it?
can't say. I mean, I know we met with them last year, cause I was at those meetings, when Stoke was complaining because they couldn't get to Stoke, their outdoor cafe. Now remember, there's two different programs. There's the outdoor cafe, which everybody gets an opportunity to participate in. It's free. You can have outside tables in front of your building as long as you maintain a. Well, Omni's is coming with is 8 foot, where we were always 3 to 5 feet.
Yeah, go wide.
And the problem is, there's one restaurant that's located outside. Their tables in their cafe area is where there's tree wells. So where the tree wells, it pinches down to 2 feet. Well, that you can't get through.
I don't think it's ever going to be fully fair either. The way certain real estate is set up differently than other storefronts or restaurants.
This is just the beginning of Lens Court.
Yeah.
When they start the construction in probably about 4 weeks on the hotel, and if a guy Fainer ever decides to put his
No.
4 stories on top of his 2 stories, it's going to be a real problem. That area is going to have a lot of construction.
Yeah. I liked the flexible design that was presented at the last meeting. I had a lot of residents, not necessarily restaurant owners, reach out, and people were excited to have multiple options. I think the whole idea of the public market coming into the downtown, where you know, my husband and I have 2 totally different diets. We can go to 2 different vendors and sit there. I think some of that lends to that a little bit as well, like with those updated designs. If I wanted to go to Stoke and he wanted to go to Josie's, we could grab both
So
and sit
do
on
they
the
at the
bench
same table?
there.
Yeah.
Yeah, I
So
think it's a
sit
really
down, yeah.
positive update.
I think, if I may, from Josie's standpoint, they're not opposed, but they had an agreement that the city
Well,
agreed to
Well,
on paper.
Josie's is
There was a
upset
permanent
also
thing.
because we only have 2 15-minute spaces. Let's be honest.
But they
And-
said they're okay with the 15 minutes. The issue was they put a proposal in for 34 seats. We're going to cut them down to like 8. Mayor, you and I agreed that they can put their tables on the other side of the walkway. But me saying it and saying, hey, I spoke to the mayor, he's in favor of it too, just doesn't really solidify it.
The
so
whole
they wouldn't
idea
hear
of
about
outdoor dining was to help businesses,
Right.
not hurt them.
Right.
So if we come at it from the idea of helping them, but you can't just let them run wild, because
I
outdoor
understand.
dining is not loved by everyone.
I understand. But I do agree with Councilman that we should
I
have
don't
the
like the
conversation. I just
15-minute
don't think.
spaces. I don't like the 2-minute. When I go downtown to eat on a Friday night, if I'm going to go to River Grill, those 2 spaces are empty because nobody's going to get in and out for 15 minutes. I can run into Josie's and get my sandwich at lunchtime, but I can't go to eat for 15
They were,
minutes.
Mayor, and I agree, they were good during the pandemic.
Right.
Pandemic's no longer here, and that's why we give an opportunity to do that.
So how about 15 minutes parking till 4 o'clock and then do regular hourly after
We
that?
talked about that. We asked Mazin to get some signs made.
Yeah. So, I mean, and I'm okay with talking about it, obviously. I just don't think tomorrow in College Hill is the place to do it. I think we should schedule a committee meeting or whatever and have that discussion.
Well, would you call up Mr. Corey, Judge Corey, and tell him? Because I don't want Roseanne showing up and
I
building.
can call them tonight.
Roseanne called me and Mike called me before I walked in.
Okay.
Okay.
You mentioned that we may not have a committee meeting.
We may not have a committee meeting in 2
So
weeks.
postponing it to the 2 weeks
Well,
from
we-
now.
Well, I'm not going to give a
No,
date,
it would be on Wednesday night anyway. They have to come to.
but I'm not going to give a date. I'll just say we'll reach out to him
Okay.
and you put it on, but just let him know it's not tomorrow.
Yeah, I'll give them a call on the way.
In 2 weeks on a Tuesday is, I think, the GD volunteer picnic.
Right.
It's a GDP volunteer picnic up at Hackett Park. Anything else to come before council? Any other committees? Not on the agenda? See you all tomorrow night, same time, same station.
Thank you.
Thank you. Crystal, do you have a second?
No.